I'm refusing to leave because they won't give me my money. They'll let me have my chips. Great, I'll go spend those in Tesco. But they won't give me my money, and it escalates to the point where they call the police on me.
Card counting, it's not illegal, is it?
It's not illegal, despite what casinos would love everyone to think. Yeah.
Right.
The way I describe it, and I occasionally get the accusation of being a cheat, which
Right.
I resent as a term.
Yeah.
Because the reason it's not illegal and the reason it's not even considered cheating is name any game in the world where thinking too much would be considered cheating. Can you imagine you're speaking to a chess player and you're like, actually, you can't think 5 moves ahead. It's only 4. Yeah. It would be insane. So this is the same reason, right? All I'm doing is using my head. All I'm doing is using the same information all the players at the table have access to.
Yeah.
I'm just using it in a different way.
I love it. I've got a few questions about back-offs. I find them really interesting. When you guys go and watch Stephen's videos, if you haven't already, they're my favourite part of the videos. There's confrontation, and it's almost like you're the good guy, they're the bad guy. You're taking money from the man, so to speak. I think we've already discussed, but what is a back-off? How does it work?
Essentially a back-off is when the casino asks you to stop playing blackjack. That's the simplest, but they can do that in a variety of ways. So sometimes they just simply tap you on the shoulder. They go, "That's enough," little wink, and they're just being chill. Or sometimes they're not happy about it at all, and they're kind of angry, right? Yeah. So in the videos, there's the whole range of what can happen, and some of them have been really intense.
What's the worst back-off you've ever experienced?
There's got to be, so far, I had a situation where I was playing in this tribal casino. Now, tribal casinos are already a bit of a mixed bag because, for people that don't know, a tribal casino is an Indian reservation in the US. So they have tribal sovereignty, which essentially means that, as far as I understand it, it's kind of like a reparations thing. It's like, we've screwed you over, so you can have this bit of land for your tribe where you can basically set your own rules and your own laws within reason, right? A lot of the time, the tribe will build a massive casino complex because the state might have some strict gambling laws that don't apply to them. So they'll have this sort of market dominance of this huge casino. Normally, it can work out a pretty good tax situation, as far as I'm aware, with stuff like that. But anyway, these tribes will build these massive casinos. But within that tribe, it's kind of operating in a bit of a different legal parameter. Sure, there's US laws, but it's the tribe have their own police that are separate from, the standard US police. And the casino is bringing in the revenue for the tribe, usually is the biggest revenue source by quite a mile, as far as I understand. So in a way, the casino are funding the police, at least indirectly, which you can already see how could create a bit of a conflict of interest in these situations. So one time I'm in this tribal casino in Washington, and I played there a few times and never got backed off. The worst thing I'd had happen was like an almost back-off situation. Like, it was like, oh, it's coming, and I left, sort of thing.
Right.
But I'd never been officially asked to not play. At their sister property, a casino owned by the same tribe, I had been chased out of the casino, which is a whole other story, and it wasn't particularly pleasant, but they essentially chased me out of the casino, and it wasn't great. But this place hadn't. So I'd been avoiding this casino because I was like, I don't want to deal with what I know is going to be quite a tense back off. But I happened to just be in the area, and I'd been backed off from the casinos nearby. So it was my only choice to play at if I wanted to use the time well. So I start playing, and after however long it was, maybe an hour, somebody comes over to me, and they lean over and they just go, "Hey, I need you to see your ID." Now, being ID'd in casinos is obviously a thing that makes sense, right? You don't want to let people under 21 gamble. However, if people are being ID'd randomly, just you're walking around, or I've been ID'd as I've come out of the loo, I know it's because they're actually just trying to get my ID because they know I'm counting cards, and they want to write down my name so that they have it on record and just be all weird. So in those situations, I don't want to show my ID, nor do I legally have to. Like, it's their responsibility to make sure I'm over 21. It's not my responsibility to prove that. If they don't like it, then sure, they can refuse service, as they, maybe should in that situation. So anyway, this guy comes over and he's like, "I need to see your ID." And I just went, because I was just trying to de-escalate. I was like, "I get it, no more blackjack." I'm just trying to, let's skip all that and just be like, I was like, "Don't worry, mate, no more blackjack." Just trying to get that across. And he was like, No, I need to see your ID. And already he's like a bit more aggressive. And I say, "Well, I don't, really want to show my ID." In these situations, I'm always trying to not escalate the situation, which is kind of weird because people will say, "Well, you get the views from these situations," but I'm never trying to orchestrate them. I'm just not backing down.
Right.
So in this situation, my goal is to not hand over my ID. So I'm like, I don't really want to show my ID. And I start trying to explain to him that I don't have to legally. And I'm just like, look, legally, I don't really have to do this and try and get that across. And he just immediately just goes in from like, he goes from like a 3 to a 10. Like he's immediately very angry. He's trying to overpower me through like dominate the conversation, the dynamic by being aggressive. So he's like demanding my ID. And as I try and explain it, he just keeps like hammering on. And this whole thing escalates. And before I know it, there's sort of multiple casino staff in suits around. And then some of these are security, some of these are whatever, just these people in suits. And the situation comes, the standoff becomes that I just want to leave. I'm like, I want to cash out my chips and go. And they say that they're not going to cash me out unless I show my ID.
Oh, can they do that?
Well, no.
Right.
Like, short answer, no. Long answer, they can do whatever they want. What am I going to do to an extent, right? But so they're sort of basing it on, well, we need your ID to cash you out because how do we know you're over 21? And my whole thing being, well, if you've messed up this, you've already messed up pretty bad if I'm not 21. You should have ID'd me at the door, which they did, by the way. And I showed ID at the door. They just didn't write it down because they didn't think it, they didn't know at the time. So it's this situation where I'm refusing to leave because they won't give me my money. They'll let me have my chips. Great. I'll go spend those in Tesco. But they won't give me my money. And I just basically stand my ground. And it escalates to the point where they call the police on me, the tribal police, essentially funded by the casino, and at that point I'm really nervous because I know the range of what can happen at this point from having mates that have been in situations, and it can be pretty bad. I don't know if these police are going to be on my side or not. So this whole thing lasts maybe half an hour of this kind of back and forth conflict of like me going, I just want to cash out and leave, and them going, we need your ID, blah, 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 and doing all this. And eventually I start walking towards the door. Just because if the police come and then they see that I'm walking towards the door, at least I can be like, I was just leaving, and then hopefully get out and avoid if they were being hostile. But they come in and they immediately tell me to sit down just as I'm kind of getting to the door. And luckily, I explained everything and they sided with me. And I did show the police my ID, something I've been criticized for many times. They were like, they didn't have reasonable suspicion. You didn't need to show ID. Anyway, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I showed them my ID because these were the people I needed to win over at the time. At this stage, and they escorted me to the cash desk. I got my money and then briskly walked out of the casino to avoid anything else happening.
Wow!
But it was incredibly intense at the time. I know I have friends of mine that they've been, one guy I know is handcuffed to a chair. Like, this stuff is obviously not legal, and people that have been what we call backroomed or nearly backroomed, which is what it sounds like. They try and get you in a room and have you in this room where they. Whatever.
What, can they beat you up?
Well, no, but I didn't think they could handcuff you to a chair. So, like, I don't I don't know what level that this actually. I don't want to assume one way or the other, but I sure don't want to be put in a back room. So, there's been a few situations to varying degrees of intensity like that where the casino has just been decided to be really like hostile and aggressive, and not just like send me on my way.
Wow. How many backoffs do you think you've experienced in the short time you've been doing this?
I really should have a count. But I don't have I don't have an up-to-date number in my mind, but it's in...
If anyone could keep count, I think it would be you.
Yeah, that's the irony, isn't it? Oh, I can't count, I lost count. Oh, yeah, that's good. It's got a bit less than 100, but more, in the tens, like 30 plus easily. I don't know, maybe it depends exactly. I've been banned from chains of casinos as well, so I don't know if you'd want to count them individually. That would be kind of cheating, I reckon. But yeah.
Do you think creating these YouTube videos is going to get you backed off before you even go in?
Yeah, it's a bit of a yeah, probably.
It's going to get to a point where you can no longer gamble.
There'll be a tipping point for sure. Yeah, which is like what I'm okay with that to a degree. I think in a way people can overestimate casinos a bit. But yeah, it's kind of going to be interesting seeing, because up until this point, I haven't really played since putting the videos out. So when I eventually do go and play at some point, it will be interesting to see if I'm a bit famous. Surely the sector I'm the most famous in is amongst gamblers and among casinos. So
sure.
We will see.
So catch-22 for sure.
We'll blur his face out in all of these videos.
But it's like not a full flag because it's jaggedy and it's two jagged edges. And then like a half moon and a star.
Nepal.
Yep.
He's getting it without looking at him.